The voicemail came in while I was sitting alone in my car, engine off, hands resting on the steering wheel like I'd forgotten where I was going. I pressed play without thinking. My mom's voice was cold, controlled, like she'd practiced it. "You're finished. Don't come home. We're moving forward without you." There was a pause, just long enough to hurt, then the line went dead. For a few seconds, I just stared at my phone. No shock, no tears, just that familiar, heavy feeling in my chest, the one I'd carried since I was a kid. The feeling of being unwanted, but finally hearing it said out loud. I didn't call back. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I typed one word, "All right," and hit send. That was it. No explanation, no emotion, just silence. At that moment, they thought they'd won. They had no idea that by cutting me off, they'd finally given me the space to move first. Growing up, I was always the extra piece, the one who didn't quite fit into the picture my family liked to present to the world. My mom liked things neat, clean, successful. My older brother fit that image perfectly. Good school, good job, good smile for family photos. Me? I was the quiet one, the one who asked too many questions, the one who didn't brag, the one who didn't play along. At family dinners, I was interrupted mid-sentence. At holidays, my achievements were minimized or skipped entirely. If something went wrong, somehow it circled back to me. "You're too sensitive. You always take things the wrong way. Why can't you just be normal like your brother?" I learned early that staying quiet was safer. When I moved out, things got worse. Distance didn't make them miss me. It made it easier to forget me. Calls slowed. Messages became short. Invitations stopped. Still, I kept showing up. Birthdays, holidays, emergencies. Every time my mom needed something, I was there. I drove her to appointments, helped with paperwork, fixed things around the house. No thanks. No acknowledgement, just expectation. A year before the voicemail, things shifted. My mom started talking differently. She'd mention money more often, assets, the house, trusts. She'd say things like, "We need to make sure everything stays in the right hands." I knew what she meant. Not mine. I didn't argue. I just listened. I nodded. I stayed calm. Inside, something hardened. The final blow came at a family gathering I wasn't even supposed to attend. My brother had invited everyone for a small celebration. Promotion. Big raise. Everyone was there. I arrived late. No one noticed. During dinner, my mom raised her glass and started listing everyone's contributions to the family. She praised my brother, thanked his wife, mentioned distant relatives, then her eyes flicked to me for half a second. And, well, she said, smiling tightly, "Some people just need more time to find their place." The table laughed lightly. I didn't. That night, I went home and sat in the dark. I replayed every moment I'd swallowed my pride. Every time I'd stayed silent to keep the peace. Every time I'd hoped things would change. They never did. So when the voicemail came weeks later, it didn't surprise me. It just confirmed what I already knew. They were done with me. What they didn't know was that I'd been preparing for a long time. Quietly, legally, patiently. I'd learned early that power doesn't announce itself. It waits. Years ago, my dad had passed away suddenly. Heart attack. No warning. My mom took over everything overnight. Accounts, properties, decisions. She told everyone she had it handled. What she didn't advertise was that my dad had trusted me with certain responsibilities before he died. Not money, not control. Information. He used to say, "You pay attention, that matters." Back then, I didn't understand what he meant. Now I did. After the voicemail, I didn't go home. I didn't show up. I didn't ask for forgiveness. I simply stopped existing in their world. And I started making calls. The first call was to an old contact I'd kept saved for years. A professional voice answered. Polite, curious. I said my name. There was a pause. "I was wondering when you'd call," he said. That was the moment I knew I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't powerless. I spent the next Few days reviewing documents, old emails, copies I'd saved and forgotten about, notes from conversations my dad and I had when my mom wasn't around. It all came together slowly. Like a puzzle I didn't realize I'd been assembling my whole life. There were conditions, safeguards, triggers, things that activated only if certain lines were crossed, like cutting someone out entirely. I didn't rush. I didn't celebrate. I stayed calm. I let them think I was gone. A week after the voicemail, I heard through someone else that my mom was trying to finalize a house contract. Big sale. She'd been talking about downsizing for years. This was supposed to be her fresh start. I said nothing. Then, one quiet morning, my phone buzzed. A missed call. Then another. Then another. I didn't answer. By noon, my screen was full. Call after call. Messages stacking up without previews. By evening, the count hit 46. Missed calls. From my mom. From my brother. From numbers I didn't recognize. Finally, one message came through that I did open. It was from their lawyer. We have a very serious issue. Please contact me immediately. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I laughed. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just a slow, quiet laugh that came from deep in my chest. I typed a reply. Short, calm. I'll respond when I'm ready. And put my phone face down on the table. For the first time in my life, they were the ones waiting. And I wasn't coming back on their terms. Not anymore. I didn't respond to anyone that night. I slept better than I had in years. The next morning, I woke up early, made coffee, and sat by the window watching the city move like nothing had changed. Cars passed. People walked their dogs. Somewhere, my mom was probably pacing her kitchen, phone in hand, trying to understand why things weren't going according to plan. I let the silence stretch. Silence had always been their weapon. Now it was mine. Around noon, I finally checked my phone. More missed calls. New messages. My brother this time. What did you do? Call mom. Now. This isn't funny. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop and logged into a folder I hadn't touched in years. It was labeled something boring on purpose. Taxes 2014. Inside were scanned documents, emails, and notes. Things my dad had asked me to keep copies of just in case. Back then, I thought he was being paranoid. Now I knew better. My dad had been careful. He loved my mom, but he also knew her flaws. He knew how she treated me. He saw how decisions were being made without discussion, without transparency. A few years before he died, he had quietly set up a trust. Not unusual. What was unusual was the structure. It wasn't just about money. It was about control, checks, and conditions. And one of those conditions involved me. I wasn't the beneficiary everyone assumed. I was something else. A fail-safe. At the time, I didn't understand the weight of that. I didn't even want it. I just agreed to help because he asked. Scrolling through the files, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Sadness, anger, gratitude, and something close to relief. He had seen this coming. That afternoon, I finally returned one call. Not to my mom, not to my brother, to the lawyer who had messaged me. He answered on the second ring. Thank you for calling back, he said quickly. His voice was tense, professional, but strained. We need to discuss the trust situation. Immediately. I know, I said calmly. There was a pause. You do? He asked. Yes, I said. I've been expecting this. Another pause. Longer this time. I think there's been a misunderstanding, he said carefully. Your mother believed she had full authority to proceed with the property sale. She believed wrong, I replied. Silence. Then he cleared his throat. We should meet. No, I said. You can explain it to her. He exhaled slowly. She's not taking this well. I'm sure, I said. After we hung up, I felt my phone vibrate again. My mom this time. I let it ring. I wasn't being cruel. I was being precise. That evening, I drove past the old house. Not to stop, just to see it. The lights were on, curtains drawn. Everything looked the same. From the outside, nothing had changed. Inside, I knew everything was unraveling. Growing up, that house had never felt like home to me. It was a stage. Appearances mattered more than comfort. Conversations were monitored. Feelings were inconvenient. When my dad was alive, it was different. Quieter, warmer. He noticed things. He asked how I was doing and actually waited for the answer. After he died, the house became colder, harder, like it was punishing me for staying. I drove away without stopping. The next day, my brother showed up at my apartment unannounced. I saw him through the peephole before he knocked. Arms crossed, jaw tight. The confident one, suddenly unsure. I opened the door. "What the hell is going on?" he demanded before I could say anything. I stepped aside and let him in. Didn't answer right away. He paced the living room like he owned it. "Mom's losing her mind. The sale is frozen. Accounts are locked. Lawyers are calling each other. No one knows what you did." "I didn't do anything," I said calmly. "I stopped doing things." He stopped pacing. "Don't play games. This doesn't just happen." "You're right," I said. "It happens when rules are ignored." He laughed sharply. "Rules? Since when do you care about rules?" I looked at him, really looked at him. For the first time, I saw cracks in the confidence. Fear, thinly hidden under anger. "I've always cared," I said. "You just never noticed." He scoffed. "Mom said you were cut off, that you're out." "I know," I said. "She told me herself. So why does it look like you're the only one with leverage right now?" He snapped. I didn't answer. He stepped closer. "What do you want?" That question hit harder than he expected. Because I didn't want money. I didn't want the house. I didn't even want an apology. "I want respect," I said quietly. "And accountability." He stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. "You're being dramatic," he said finally. I smiled. Not because it was funny, because it was familiar. "Leave," I said. "What? You came here angry, not curious," I said. "When you're ready to listen, you can come back." He shook his head. "You've changed." "No," I said. "You're just seeing me clearly for the first time." He left without another word. That night, my mom finally texted. "This is going too far. We need to talk." I didn't respond. The following days were a blur of controlled chaos. I received official notices, temporary holds, legal language wrapped around simple truths. They couldn't move forward without me. Not because I owned everything, but because I had the power to stop them from pretending I didn't exist. Every attempt they made to bypass the situation triggered another safeguard, another delay, another reminder that something had been overlooked. I hadn't planned revenge. I hadn't plotted. I had simply waited for the moment when being dismissed activated the very protections they never bothered to understand. My mom called again. This time, her voice message wasn't cold. It was frantic. "Please, call me. We can fix this." Fix. That word used to keep me up at night. Now it just sounded hollow. I sat at my desk, phone face down, and thought about all the times I'd tried to fix things, apologized for things I didn't do, smoothed over tension. That wasn't mine to carry. I was done fixing. Late that evening, another message came in. From the lawyer again. "We need to discuss a resolution. Your mother is willing to reconsider previous decisions." I laughed quietly. Reconsider? Only now, when the consequences were real. I typed a response, then deleted it. Typed again. "We can talk, on my terms." I hit send. For the first time, the power dynamic had shifted completely. They were reacting. I was deciding. And they still didn't understand how deep this went. They thought this was about a sale. They had no idea what else was tied to that trust. They agreed to my terms faster than I expected. Not because they respected me, because they were scared. The meeting was set for 3 days later at a neutral office downtown. Not their lawyer's usual place. Somewhere quiet, controlled. That alone told me how desperate things had become. Until then, I stayed invisible. No calls, no texts, no explanations. I went to work like normal, made dinner, took long walks at night just to feel my thoughts settle. Every now and then, my phone buzzed with another missed call. Another message layered with urgency. My mom tried a new approach. I don't understand why you're doing this. We're family. That line used to work on me. Family. It had always meant obligation without protection, loyalty without respect, silence in exchange for survival. I didn't reply. The day before the meeting, my brother sent one last message. Mom hasn't slept in days. Whatever this is, end it. I stared at the screen for a long time. End it. Like it was a tantrum, a phase, something I'd eventually outgrow and return to my place quietly. I typed, then erased, typed again. You should have asked why instead of when. I didn't send it. Some lessons only land when spoken face to face. The morning of the meeting, I arrived early. The office was clean and minimalist. Glass walls, neutral colors, no personal touches, exactly how I liked it. I chose a chair with my back to the wall. When my mom walked in, she looked smaller than I remembered. Her hair was pulled back too, tightly, dark circles under her eyes. But her posture was still rigid, defensive. My brother followed behind her, jaw clenched. He avoided eye contact. The lawyer came last, carrying a thick folder. We sat. No one spoke at first. Finally, my mom broke the silence. I don't understand why you didn't just talk to us, she said, voice tight. Instead of doing all this, I met her eyes, calm, steady. You told me not to come back, I said, so I didn't. She flinched, just slightly. That voicemail was emotional, she said quickly. I didn't mean it literally. I nodded. But you said it. My brother sighed loudly. Can we stop circling around this? The sale is blocked. Accounts are frozen. We need to know what you're holding over us. The words were sharp, accusatory. Holding over us. Like I'd stolen something. The lawyer cleared his throat. Perhaps it would help if we reviewed the trust structure. Yes, I said. Let's do that. He opened the folder, flipping through pages carefully, like each one carried weight. Because it did. As you know, he began. The trust established by your late husband included specific conditions regarding asset transfers, property sales, and authority. My mom leaned forward. I've managed everything for years without issue. Yes, he said, because none of the conditions were violated. Her eyes flicked to me. Until recently. He added. Silence filled the room. What? Conditions? My brother asked. The lawyer hesitated, then looked at me. I nodded. There is a clause, he said, that restricts major asset actions if a designated party is formally excluded from family communication or access. My mom's face went pale. That's ridiculous, she said. That can't be enforceable. It is. He replied calmly. And it was. My brother frowned. Designated party? The lawyer turned another page. That would be you, he said to me. My mom stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. No, she said. That's not true. It is. I said quietly. She shook her head. Why would he do that? I didn't answer right away. Because he knew. I said finally. That you'd do exactly this. Her mouth opened, then closed. That trust wasn't about giving me power, I continued. It was about making sure I couldn't be erased. The lawyer nodded. The clause activates when the designated party is formally cut off, disinvited from the family home, or explicitly told not to return. My mom's hands trembled. You left a voicemail, I said. You said don't come home. You're finished. The room felt heavy. My brother leaned back in his chair, stunned. So because of that, everything stops? Not everything, I said. Just the things you tried to control without me. This is blackmail, my mom snapped. I didn't raise my voice. It's accountability. She looked at the lawyer. Fix this. He sighed. At this point, the only resolution is consent from all required parties. She turned to me. Then give it. Why? I asked. The question hung in the air. Because we're family. She said weakly. I almost laughed. Almost. Family doesn't cut someone off and expect them to unlock the door later, I said. My brother leaned forward. What do you want? There it was again. I took a breath. I want transparency, I said. I want to see everything. Accounts, agreements, decisions. No more being told after the fact. My mom scoffed. That's not necessary. It is, I replied, and I want acknowledgement, in writing, that you attempted to exclude me and triggered the clause. Her eyes flashed. Absolutely not. The lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Then nothing moves, I said simply. We sat in silence. Minutes passed. Finally, my mom's shoulders dropped. You've always been difficult, she muttered. I smiled slightly. No, I've always been inconvenient. She looked up at me, anger and fear mixing in her expression. You think this makes you powerful? She said. I don't need power, I replied. I needed boundaries. The meeting ended without resolution. They left frustrated, shaken. I stayed seated for a moment after they were gone, letting it sink in. This wasn't about winning. This was about no longer losing quietly. That night, my brother texted, Mom's furious. She says you're tearing the family apart. I stared at the message, then typed back. It was already broken. I just stopped pretending it wasn't. I set my phone down. What they still didn't know was that the trust wasn't the only thing my dad had prepared. There were layers, contingencies, and one final piece that hadn't been activated yet, something that would change everything once it came into play. And it would. Soon. After the meeting, something shifted. Not in them. In me. For the first time, I wasn't replaying the conversation in my head, wondering what I should have said differently. I wasn't anxious about their reactions. I wasn't waiting for approval or forgiveness. I felt steady. That scared them more than anger ever could. The next few days were quiet on the surface, but I could feel pressure building underneath, like a dam holding back water that had nowhere else to go. My mom stopped calling. That alone told me everything. Silence was her way of regaining control, of reminding people who held emotional power. But this time, silence didn't pull me back. Instead, I received formal emails. Polite, carefully worded, requests for documents, proposals for temporary solutions. Every message came through the lawyer now, as if distance could erase what had already happened.